News at 6.
Eagle Eye TV has done a great job.
And welcome to Eagle Eye News at 6.
We are just having a great time here in Auburn, Alabama. The party is not over yet.
Eagle Eye TV, Auburn's news leader.
Good evening and welcome to Eagle Eye News at 6. I'm Alice Estes.
And I'm Ethan Clements. Thank you for joining us.
The Trump administration continues to deal with the fallout over the Atlantic article that was published last Monday, detailing U.S. attack plans on the Iran-backed Houthi group in Yemen. Editor-in-chief of The Atlantic, Jeffrey Goldberg, was mistakenly added to a messaging group on the Signal app, where discussions between Vice President J.D. Vance, Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth, and other Trump administration officials were taking place just hours before the attack occurred. Eagle Eye reporter Brett Fouts spoke with some local political science experts and tells us more.
On Wednesday, The Atlantic published the full transcript of the leaked Signal group chats that editor-in-chief Jeffrey Goldberg was accidentally added to, where top Trump administration officials were discussing the March 15th airstrikes against Houthi rebels in Yemen.
The messages, which were fully published on Wednesday, included detailed information about the timing and types of aircraft used in the strikes, which were sent by Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth. Other members of the group chat included Vice President J.D. Vance, National Intelligence Director Tulsi Gabbard, and National Security Advisor Mike Waltz, who has taken responsibility for creating the group. Gabbard and CIA Director John Ratcliffe, who was also in the chat, testified on Tuesday that no classified information was shared in the group chat. Additionally, Hegseth downplayed the contents of the group chat while speaking to reporters before heading for Guam.
Nobody's texting war plans. There's no units, no locations, no routes, no flight paths, no sources, no methods, no classified information.
The White House has also downplayed the contents of the group chat, with President Trump saying on Wednesday that, quote, "There was no classified information, as I understand it." We asked Auburn political science professor Peter White about the significance of the group chat and its contents.
There's been some conjecture in the media that the other advantage, of using Signal for this type of conversation is that it is outside of government records. So there are requirements that any sort of deliberations would take place in a government system. They'd be preserved for posterity in the National Archives. Even if they are classified, they're classified and then kept separately in the National Archives. Using a third-party app like Signal would maybe allow the participants to, in their view, speak more freely because it wouldn't be preserved for posterity.
White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt has said that the National Security Council and Elon Musk will launch an investigation into how Goldberg was included in the chat. Meanwhile, several Democratic Congress members have called for investigations into the matter, as well as calls for Hegseth to resign.
It's an incredible display of irresponsibility. They literally had targeting coordinates. So this was really an astonishing breach. In my view, Waltz and Hegseth should go.
For Eagle Eye TV, I'm Brett Fouts.
Auburn University Dreammakers recently announced a rebrand and relocation to East Alabama Health to serve infant and pediatric care in the Auburn-Opelika area. I got the chance to speak with outgoing AUDM President Tatum Mitchell about the change. Let's take a look.
This past week, I met with Tatum Mitchell, the outgoing president of the Auburn University Dreammakers, to discuss the organization's rebrand and how that may affect them heading into the fall.
So we have officially moved over to East Alabama Health and have officially become Auburn University Dreammakers. This came from a very long year of planning and discussion. It came from a unanimous decision from the executive board. And so basically all we're doing is transferring our raising funds and awareness over to East Alabama Health here in town.
I asked Tatum if the shift to becoming AU Dreammakers has changed the organization's mission at all.
Now we're going to work to better the NICUs within East Alabama Health, as they have a level 2 and level 3, and they really need to upgrade their level 2 so that they can have more beds and treat more patients within the town.
AU Dreammakers is known for their main event, which was hosted this spring, and the organization will host other on-campus events with one large event coming this fall.
We'll host our main event in February just like we always do. We'll have our push weeks in the spring and fall semesters, as well as we in the past have had Child Health Day, which has been Children Miracle Network affiliated, and so it's going to look a little different, but we do plan on hosting a big October event kind of like we have in the past.
With Auburn University Dreammakers setting their sights on East Alabama Health, the organization aims to make a tangible impact within the Auburn community. For Eagle Eye TV, I'm Ethan Clements.
Women's History Month is nearly over, and who better to celebrate women's history than Auburn Board of Trustees member Elizabeth Huntley? Eagle Eye's Morgan Sims has the story.
The legacy of women at Auburn University dates back to 1892, what was then known as the Agricultural and Mechanical College of Alabama. And 133 years later, women are still making history. One of those women still making history is Elizabeth Huntley, a lawyer, speaker, author, and child advocate who now serves on the Board of Trustees at Auburn University. Her success has paved the way for young women, and she wants to continue to see women progress in important roles.
Because there's so many smart, amazing women out there that are advocating for women's issues, we are a whole lot better than where we were a decade ago, 20 years ago, or 50 years ago, because we now have voice.
President of Auburn University, Chris Roberts, feels that Huntley is the perfect role model for young women at Auburn University and beyond.
I don't know that I could think of a better example of someone to celebrate and to help represent women's history than Liz Huntley. She is a tremendous leader and example for this university.
One of Liz Huntley's books, called More Than a Bird, illustrates the darkness that she experienced in her childhood, but how getting over that darkness led her to her success today.
It's incredible because of the strength that women possess as they manage the balance between being mothers on many times, being leaders within their families because of traditional roles of women, and they juggle all of those things to do amazing things. And they can they can be some bad mama jammas, for lack of a better way to say it.
And for Auburn News, I'm Morgan Sims.
The AU-NCKU hosted its popular event Taiwan Night. It was a night filled with Taiwanese street food and games that sought to emulate the experience of a night market in the tropical island of Taiwan. Attendees had to play games in order to win tokens, which could then be redeemed for prizes and food. We spoke to director of AU-NCKU Taiwan Center, Xuan Zhang, and she told us more about the significance of this event as it pertains to Taiwanese culture.
So this event, Taiwan Night, is aimed to introduce the night market cultures, which is significant culture in Taiwan. Because Taiwan is an island in a semi-tropical area, so the weather gets cooled down at night, and people enjoy hanging out outside at night. And so this is what makes the night market part of the culture of Taiwan. This Taiwan night is actually, it's more like introducing the night market where many Taiwanese people hang out at night while they play games and they enjoy some yummy food.
Auburn is going global. Last Tuesday, March 25th, revived student organization Global Tigers Association met for a lunch interest meeting from 11:30 to 1 in Foy Hall. The lunch was led by Global Tigers of Auburn president and founder Giles Jones, Zadie Lakin, a graduate assistant in the International Cultural Center, and Dr. Adiola Fayemi, director of intercultural education in the Office of Internal Programs. Students and leaders discussed goals for the organization, possible future events they could promote, and how the organization plans to serve as a resource for international and domestic students in the Auburn family. Attending students expressed interest in learning about diversity, other cultures, and study abroad opportunities.
So our goals are really just to be a catalyst for these kind of conversations that we want to see on our campus, and allowing people to have a diverse and unique experience here at Auburn. We want people to be prepared to go into the world, ready to interact with people from North Africa and from Asia and from Europe and all over the place, because we know that's the kind of world that we live in. We believe that Auburn has first-class students, and we want them to be ready and prepared for a world which is full of so many different opinions and just ready to tackle everything that's ahead of them.
Coming up next is your weather outlook for this week on the plains with Eagle Eye's Beauman Ivester. You're watching Eagle Eye News at 6. We'll be right back.
Welcome back to Eagle Eye News at 6. I'm Beauman Ivester here with your weather outlook for this week on the plains. While today was all doom and gloom with the storms, the weather for the rest of the week is starting to look more like summer. Tomorrow will be mostly sunny with a high of 80 and a low of 66. Wednesday we'll see clouds in the morning and sun in the afternoon. The high will be 86 and the low will be 66. Thursday will be partly cloudy with a high of 87 and a low of 66. Friday will also be partly cloudy, a 1 degree warmer with a high of 88 and a low of 66 as well. Now let's head on over into the weekend. Saturday will also be partly cloudy and we'll have a high of 86 and a low of 69. Unfortunately, the thunderstorms are forecasted to return on Sunday. The high will be 71 and the low will be 50. That's all I have for you this week. Stay tuned because when we come back, you'll get a national news update from Alice and Ethan. From Eagle Eye News, I'm Beauman Ivester. We'll return shortly.
A doctoral student at the University of Alabama was detained by immigration authorities as the Trump administration continues to target non-citizens throughout the country and in higher education. According to the school and ICE records, Alireza Durrati is a citizen of Iran and has been in custody since last Tuesday after being arrested in his home at 5 in the morning. John Papke has the details.
Durrati was picked up by ICE agents in the pre-dawn hours on Tuesday at his apartment just off the Alabama campus. After being held at the Pickens County Jail, he has now been transferred to the ICE Processing Center in Louisiana. Today, his attorney told us he has no information that Durrati presents a threat to national security. David Rosal said he has not been arrested for any crime, nor has he participated in any anti-government protests. He claims Durrati is legally in the U.S., working on a Ph.D. in mechanical engineering. Homeland Security told us Durrati's student visa was revoked in the past. And immigration attorney Zaira Zolano says that alone is enough to end up on ICE's radar.
Just being here without legal status because you don't have a visa is sufficient reason under the immigration laws for a Homeland Security officer to detain a person.
Everyone we reached out to that knows Durrati in Tuscaloosa did not want to go on camera for our story. And Solano says many foreign nationals studying in the U.S. are fearful right now.
If I were them, I would reach out to an immigration attorney just to confirm, hey, let's look at my situation, let's look at my facts and ensure that my visa is valid.
Are rushing to buy cars after President Donald Trump announced a 25% tariff on all cars and parts shipped to the United States. Trump says the move is aimed at expanding America's auto manufacturing prowess, bringing jobs and companies back to the U.S. But experts warn prices could surge. Wednesday could be an even bigger day for U.S. trade. That's when the president says he'll unveil reciprocal tariffs. Amy Kiley reports a few of his comments yesterday suggest those could be even broader than predicted.
You'd start with all countries.
President Donald Trump now says reciprocal tariffs he plans to unveil Wednesday are on the table for all nations. That's after the Treasury Secretary told Fox Business earlier this month the focus was on those with the largest trade deficits. Trump also now says any deal related to the duties will come after they begin.
The tariffs will be far more generous than those countries were to us.
Meanwhile, 25% tariffs on imported vehicles are scheduled to start Thursday. Duties on parts are set to follow.
Most likely prices are going to go up by a few $1,000s at least, but it would vary from brand to brand and maybe even from model to model.
Trump says he, quote, couldn't care less if car prices rise so long as more manufacturing comes to the U.S. Analysts say a major supply chain shift would take years. In the meantime, U.S. companies would have to pay the tariffs. Economists say that likely would raise prices for consumers.
You can't overrule the laws of economics with an executive order any more than you can overrule the laws of gravity.
Experts say those laws of economics apply to more than just cars. They predict Trump's other tariffs also will raise prices and lower demand.
When you combine that lesser demand with what we're seeing in the decline of consumer investor confidence, you could well see a slowing of the economy.
I'm Amy Kiley reporting.
Rapper Sean Kingston is now facing perhaps decades behind bars after a jury in Florida convicted him and his mother of wire fraud. On Friday, the jury in Fort Lauderdale found Kingston, whose real name is Kashawn Anderson, and his mother, Janice Turner, guilty of falsely obtaining expensive vehicles, jewelry, and other goods. Prosecutors say Kingston and his mother told business owners they had secured money to pay for the items when that was not true. Prosecutors say the fraud scheme totaled more than $1 million. Kingston and his mother were convicted of 5 charges. They face up to 20 years in prison for each count. A judge will sentence them in July. Lawyers say the pair say they plan to appeal. From the courts to the diamond, Eagle Eye's Cohen Dalzell has a very exciting Auburn sports update for this week on the Plains. All that and more when we come back. You're watching Eagle Eye News at 6.
Welcome back to Eagle Eye News at 6. I'm Cohen Dalzell, here to tell you all the big headlines in Auburn athletics last week. And today we have a bunch of them, so let's get right on into it. After advancing to the Sweet 16 last weekend, Auburn basketball faced Michigan on Friday with the opportunity to go to the Elite Eight on Sunday. It looked grim for a second with the Tigers trailing 48-39 with only 12 minutes and change left on the clock. But Auburn did what they've done all year. On the backs of freshman Tahad Pettiford as well as Denver Jones and superstar Janai Broome, Auburn went on a 39-17 run over those final 12 minutes to dance their way to the Elite Eight, 78-65. In the Elite Eight game Sunday, Auburn faced off against Michigan State for the chance to go to San Antonio and the Final Four. Auburn started off hot, quickly jumping out to a 23-9 advantage before cooling off into the half, leading 33-24 at the break. Although the Spartans never went away, the Tigers never faltered and never gave up the lead, advancing to the second Final Four in program history, 70-64. Janai Broome had 25 points and 14 rebounds despite exiting with an injury midway through the second half. Broome later re-entered and played valuable minutes for Auburn down the stretch. Tahad Pettiford had 10 points, while Miles Kelly and Denver Jones both added 8 to take Auburn to San Antonio. Auburn takes on Florida in the national semifinal this Saturday inside of the Alamo Dome at 5:09 Central Time. Now to the Diamond, Auburn baseball traveled to Foley Field in Athens to take on the second-best team in the country, Georgia. Auburn struggled to find the runs to keep up with the high-powered Georgia offense all weekend, losing 4-1 in Game 1 Friday night before a doubleheader the next day. The Tigers played better in both of these games and even pushed the second game of the doubleheader to extra innings. But ultimately, it was Georgia that found the scoring necessary to take both the games and sweep the Tigers 11-7 and 9-6. Auburn hosts UAB Tuesday and then rivals Alabama for 3 games this weekend. Now to the other side of the diamond, Auburn softball hosted 4th-ranked Florida at Jane B. Moore Field, continuing their stretch against 3 top 5 ranked teams nationally. Auburn lost all 3 games against the Gators, with Florida outpacing the Tigers in Game 1, 11-7 on Friday, before beating them via mercy rule on Saturday, 11-0. The closest game of the series was the Sunday finale, where the Gators scored 4 in the 3rd inning and Auburn couldn't get the game back to even, losing 4-3. Auburn visits Kentucky for a 3-game set this weekend. And that is all I have for you tonight. For more sports coverage, tune into Sports Night in Auburn Wednesday night at 7 right here on Eagle Eye TV. Be sure to stick around after the break to hear about the now bankrupt genetic testing firm that might have access to your DNA. I'm Cohen Dalzell for Eagle Eye Sports, and you are watching Eagle Eye News at 6. We'll be right back.
The Federal Communications Commission is investigating ABC and its parent company Disney over diversity, equity, and inclusion policies. A Friday letter from the FCC to Disney CEO Bob Iger said the agency wants to, quote, ensure that Disney and ABC have not been violating FCC equal employment opportunity regulations by promoting DEI discrimination, end quote. The probe is the latest escalation in the Trump administration's crackdown on diversity programs in private American companies. The administration has already dismantled DEI efforts in the federal government and banned diversity considerations when hiring. A Disney spokesperson said the company is reviewing the FCC's letter and looks forward to answering the agency's questions.
Genetic testing from 23andMe announced last week that it has filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy to facilitate a sale. Now, many of its 15 million customers are wondering what will happen to their genetic data. While it's unclear what's next for the company, experts say there's a big incentive for corporations and researchers to get their hands on the genetic data. Genetics can reveal a lot about a person, from their health predispositions to even their food preferences. As a result, experts say the genetic data offers huge potential for everything from medical research to even advertising. But on its website, 23andMe says any buyer must comply with laws around handling customer data. The company plans to continue selling kits and offering subscriptions. While 23andMe says the bankruptcy won't change how it handles user data, privacy advocates and 2 state attorney generals have urged Americans to delete their data on the service.
A wave of take-down Tesla protests were held across the country and across the world Saturday. The rallies took place outside Tesla dealerships targeting billionaire CEO Elon Musk, whose aggressive cost-cutting measures have led to thousands of federal workers being fired. Jen Sullivan has a recap on the protests.
Don't touch our Social Security! Crowds of protesters gathering outside a Tesla dealership in Washington Saturday. Outraged by the company's CEO, Elon Musk, whose influential role in the Trump administration has led to mass layoffs at government agencies and deep cuts to funding, as the White House tries to rein in spending.
I think Trump is really running the country like a company, and he doesn't care about people.
Let's push Elon out the door! Protests were held outside of Tesla dealerships across the country Saturday, part of a campaign dubbed Tesla Takedown.
Together we can take our government back.
Musk was put in charge of the agency known as DOGE, which stands for the Department of Government Efficiency. Its stated goal is to reduce government spending. So far, more than 121,000 workers have been fired from federal agencies since the start of Trump's second term. Many of Saturday's protesters say those cuts go too far.
This is not about efficiency. This is about reducing efficiency.
Organizers say these protests are meant to be peaceful, but they come amid a recent surge in violent attacks on Tesla vehicles and facilities. Cars and charging stations set on fire. The FBI has even stepped in to help crack down on the violent attacks, and the White House condemning them.
When I looked at those showrooms burning and those cars, not 1 or 2, like 7, 8, 10 burning, exploding all over the place, these are terrorists.
I'm Jen Sullivan reporting.
Unfortunately, we're out of time, but for more Auburn news, head over to our website, eagleeyeauburn.com, and check out our social media pages. I'm Alice Estes.
And I'm Ethan Clements. Thank you for joining us tonight, and a big War Eagle to you.